Well, I am so glad to see both of you today, and people will watch this, so they'll see you too, but also that you're here for this conversation. Kat, Rachel, how you doing? What's up?
Ooh, it's been a time, friends.
She leads with "It's been a time." That's not heavy.
Y'all are about to be
You
my
good?
therapy on today. Does anybody want to
Uh-oh.
copay? Like,
Let me send you my square. I'm just kidding.
yes,
Oh.
friends. I am doing well despite, moving. Those of us who have moved, it is terrible,
Mm.
horrible. And then you add the actual terrible, horrible things like the movers' crew didn't show up, so he's a one-man show, and the task rabbit I hired didn't show up. So a 2-hour job took two
Oh.
days. So
Oh
he's tired.
no. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I do hope you get some good rest and recovery. I have moved lots of times and I understand the frustration, but I haven't had that. I have had my goods, like after they packed them up, it's been taken for ransom before. That's fun. I'll tell you that
No,
story another day.
not a kidnapping of the things.
Yep, we were without our things for like 3 months.
Be for
And then we
real.
finally got them back. Isn't that crazy?
The way I felt
So,
about it, y'all could just put it in the trash at this point. So,
yeah. Well, I'm glad at least it's over, and I hope that you get good rest and you can settle it nicely and not have to worry about that.
yeah, thanks for that. Kat, how are you doing?
Good, but it's so funny they say it's been a time because I feel like that's just been the kind of week. Like it's like everybody I talk to, there's like something unexpected or whatever, happening. And so I think we're all going through it, like in some sort of way. So it's actually why I get super excited for pockets like this where we can just connect and talk to others and like kind of just get away from the world for a moment and like get into somebody else's world for a moment. So we can take
No
that
doubt.
energy on too because it gets rough around us. We just got to remember where to invest our time too. Take some time away to invest in growth and learning.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see you guys.
For sure.
Yeah, likewise. I have been okay, but busy. So
Mm.
busy. Y'all, my book is coming along. I'm so excited.
Yay.
It's like exciting, but I'm nervous at the same time. And I continued to do some research and surveys and things. And one very clear theme that comes through every time is for folks who identify as being mixed race or having mixed racial ancestry in any way that they identify, is there is no clear way to say this is what it's like for mixed people. Like, because there's so many different ways to be mixed, and then you throw culture on top of it, you throw personal history on top of it. And when I watch the news and things, especially now at the time of this recording anyway, we are pretty close to the election. And so everything's about polls. And it's the way they report these polls is who is saying what, and everybody gets sort of lumped together. And you're like, what does that even mean? Right? First of all, they don't even talk about, people with two or more races say, because that gets left out all the time. And then it's like, what does suburban women mean? And what does the Latina community mean? Because even whenever you go to fill out something, it's separated. It's like, are you Hispanic or not? And then what's your race? So it's such a weird way of collecting information to talk about people's sentiments when there's no true definition. And
Right.
even within these groups, it's so completely different. That's the thing that blows me away looking at this research that I'm getting. Mixed race is so many things. And so, but I'm just so excited to be getting this close. And each and every time I'll be telling you a little bit more, and we'll be announcing soon.
Exciting.
I know. I'm really
That's
excited.
so exciting. That's really exciting.
I can't wait. Well, kind of along this lines, I have met a person recently. We had such a great conversation. I was like, oh yes, you're absolutely a fantastic guest for this show. I really can't wait for you to meet. Her name is Hady Mendez, and she is a New York-based Amazon best-selling author. Y'all, she's a press. I'm all like, I'm
Let's
excited, but
go.
she's like, I already did that, Shawna. She's a Latina speaker. She's an ERG coach. She's the founder and CEO of Boldly Speaking LLC. And what she does is she empowers underrepresented employees to self-advocate, to self-promote, and rise to leadership roles within employee resource groups and other parts of their organizations. She has 25 years of experience, and she's led equality initiatives in major tech firms. She's advised, she's championed causes for incarcerated women. She's amazing. Like, she's been featured in Business Insider, and she is like the 2022 honoree in LinkedIn Top Coaching and Mentoring Voice. I am so happy to welcome you, Hady. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yay.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here with the ladies.
Yes, yes, we are happy to have you. Yeah, you are a pretty fascinating human being. You've gotten to do lots of things. Your interest in supporting women and helping folks is just fantastic. But before we dig into what you do, and just love to hear about you, the person, when you're not out working and doing these other things that we just introduced about you. What do you enjoy? Who are you outside of
Yeah,
work?
I would say like I'm a Latina and I identify as a Latina and a woman of color. So like that's my experience, my lived experience. That's how I walk through the world and that's the lens that I see the world. I'm really into health and wellness. So about 2 years ago, I lost like 30, 40 pounds and I'm on a gluten-free, plant-based, refined sugar-free diet, which I mostly stick to. And so I'm always looking for like gluten-free, vegan goodies. And I eat a snack with coffee every day, like mid-morning. And so I'm always like looking for something to have with my coffee. So I'm like a junkie. I'm a cafecito snack junkie. But it's like joy in a cup and joy in my bowl and just something that makes me happy. And it's not a lot. Like usually I like half. Like today I had half a cookie and I'm like, I'm happy. I'm so happy
Half
with
a
half a
cookie?
cookie. Half a cookie.
Okay.
Yes, it was half. I think it was like an oatmeal raisin. I don't even know what it was because I usually buy stuff and I freeze it, and then I'm like,
Oh,
surprise! I don't know what I'm eating. I'm just eating
Ooh,
something from my
that's
fridge that I bought.
self-control.
I'm like so
okay.
happy with a cup of coffee and a piece of bread. Like my husband just
That's
like
it
laughs. He's
too.
like, my grandma used to do that. I'm like,
Trust me,
no, I
some
grew up with
bread.
that.
Don't
Like,
sleep
give me
on
my little
bread. You're
bread
right.
and right. He's like, you don't want to toast
Sometimes
that. I'm like, no,
chunky
no,
but
no. It's about
funky,
the softness of
y'all.
the bread. Sometimes I'll press the bread together. Like it's just.
Well, today there's a place I just moved to, so I moved to Beacon, New York, and there's a gluten-free like vegan spot here, and they made challah bread for the Jewish holidays.
Oh,
And
yeah,
today I
yeah.
was
It's
like,
getting
oh,
on
I know,
time.
yeah. So I went to buy some, and I'm like, I noticed they didn't have that, and they're like, no, they're hot from the oven. Do you know how many do you need? So I was like, I'll
Oh,
just get one,
yeah, with
but it was hot,
coffee.
so that's what I had too today. I had some of
Yes,
that as well.
I get it. I get
Shh.
it.
You taught me a new word, cafecito. I have my little
Cafecito.
cafecito. I won't be having half a cookie though. Here's me. Like I go to the store and I'm like, okay, let me look at the little calories label. Okay, okay. I'll have a quarter of it. Then I'm in my car like nobody's with me, but I'm feeling like ashamed, guilty, like eating my little cookie, get home and there's a quarter of it left. And I'm like, well,
Well,
I
I
tried.
don't feel guilty. I'm eating me a whole crumble cookie, all 1,200 calories of it immediately. So shout out to y'all for your discipline.
So I was about to say the trick to just having the half or having the one or having whatever you want to have, like no shade on anybody who wants to have the whole box or the whole bag, but it's really to just put it on your plate and like put the rest of it away. That's how I
Wait,
do it. So it's like
how,
I'll be like, I want one, and I put it on a plate, and then I just put the box away.
but Hadi, that means that I have to get home to my plate. That's where the I think the
Throw it under
difficulty
the seat.
lies.
Hady might have to be
Throw
my
it in the back
nutrition
seat,
coach,
yeah.
y'all.
I'm like, yeah, I will try that, but no, that's really awesome, and I will be saying cafecita from now on. My little cafecita.
Good. You said you
I
pronounce it
love that.
too.
Well, so okay, before we started, y'all, we talked a little bit, and Hadi asked, "Does anybody speak Spanish?" And I was kind of shy because it always embarrassed me. So Spanish was my minor in university, but when I moved to Italy, and I did not speak Italian, but I used Spanish to get around until I eventually learned Italian, and now I'm going to be real, like most of the time, I don't know if the words I'm using are Italian or Spanish words. People do seem to know what I'm saying,
Yes.
but it's just, I'm like, I can see like the little bit of the, so I'm like, oh yeah, I must have used the wrong one. But I did start recently learning again, so I'm studying so I can refresh. But
That is a
Yeah.
low key travel tip. That Spanish gets me around Italy, Portugal, Brazil, like, and every other and then all the Spanish speaking countries. So
I
it's
was going to
actually
say
quite a good
France
man.
too.
Yeah, France, like, harder, like the sound doesn't sound, but you, if you look at the word,
Yeah.
you're like, ooh, I think I know where that's
Yeah.
coming from. So I have an idea, but sound wise, it doesn't quite sound like Spanish. But also helped if I looked at a word. So yeah, it helps
Yeah.
a lot more than
No,
you
for
think.
sure.
And I agree with you that you don't like. I just straight up. They call it portuñol when you speak Portuguese and Spanish together. So it's called. There is a term
Oh,
for it. It's like Spanglish.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
Portugal is a term, and it is acceptable that there's so many people that do that it's like quite, it's understood, like it's like a third language. But I talk it all the time. I have used it all the time, and everybody understands. And it's like you said, I'm like, I don't even know. I just made up a word. I don't even know if that's what that
Yeah.
is, but you understood.
That's how it goes. Spitalian just sounds like an American trying to speak other languages, but
It does.
I give it a go.
My
I
mom
give it a
speaks
go.
Tagalog from the Philippines, and they have a lot of similar words too. I mean, sounds nothing alike, but a lot of the words are like very similar in the way they're written, or even some are exact. So you can get by.
Well,
I had to use my little high school Spanish. I went to Cuba during when I did my master's degree, and I had to bring back that high school Spanish from 10, 15 years at that time ago. I made it do what it do though.
yeah. And usually once you get in place, things start to kind of click, which is why I started taking lessons again. So next time, Hadi, next time I'll be better and we can have a, well, I was going to look at me trying to be so ambitious. We can have a whole conversation. We can try. So
Yeah, I don't even know if I could have a whole conversation in Spanish myself. Spanglish is really where it's at, so
there
we
you
could
go.
land there.
Yeah. Well, actually, maybe this is a good place to transition. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do and how you work with the Latina community and those things that are important to you in this way.
Yeah, so I'll back up just a little bit to say that my last corporate role was head of equality at a tech company. And so in that role, I was the advisor to all of the employee resource groups, which was like, that was like a big part of my job. And then just trying to align our DEI goals to the business goals was the other piece. And, all of that was around like recruiting, retention, representation of underrepresented populations. So Black, Brown, LGBTQ plus, etc. And so that was my last corporate role, and I ended up getting laid off with like the rest of the universe last year. And
DEI world.
yeah, it happens. And so then I said, well, then I'm just gonna try and do this for a little while on my own. I have been wanting to do that. I'm closer to retirement than I look, and I'm like, I'll start now, and then I can like transition it into something that I do later when I'm like ready for retirement. And so I've been building the plane and flying the plane all at once, which I will say has been very, 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 very challenging. I think entrepreneurs find out a lot about themselves and their resilience and their character and their strength and their courage, because you gotta find it where it's not even there, and you just gotta like get up and do it again.
Agreed.
And it's been a challenging market. DEI is very much in the crosshairs of a lot of people and organizations, and a lot of organizations have also cut back their investment in DEI. And there's like a lot of competition. A lot of people got laid off, and a lot of people are like, yo, this is what I'm gonna do too. So it's been extremely hard. But I like speaking about self-advocacy and self-promotion. That's the topic, or the topics that I enjoy speaking about the most. So it's about like building your brand and advocating for yourself, owning your narrative. And a lot of underrepresented people don't do this enough. I also, I'm an ERG coach, so employee resource groups are my thing. I love employee resource groups. I've been involved for over 20 years. And so part of the work that I do is to try to get organizations to really see the leaders are right there. These are people that really should be in your pipeline. Why aren't they in your pipeline? They're right there. They have the skill set. They're doing employee engagement. They're demonstrating their organizational leadership, their advocacy. They're like advisors. They've been advisors to the organization. They're big fans typically of the organization. Usually this work is done for free and out of the kindness of your heart, and you do it because you either really care about the community, or you really care about seeing the organization have more representation, and so you're very invested when you're an ERG leader, and that's a missed opportunity for a lot of organizations. And then the third thing is I like writing about it. So we were talking about your book, and congratulations! I'm so excited for you. I've been part of two multi-author book projects. I did one when I was like I think I was in high school, like I was like 14 years old, and it was a Spanglish book. It was a book in English and Spanish, and it was like the beginning of my author journey.
Yeah.
And then earlier this year, I was part of another project. It was about 20 of us that got together and put this book together called Awareness Put Me On. And I just talk about my experience in corporate America as a Latina woman and a woman of color, and like kind of like a moment that really clicked for me. And I was like, I need to do everything different. I need to relook at my belief system. I need to relook at how I walk through this world. I need to own my narrative. I need to like reach out to to the next generation and really share what I've learned, because the way I was operating was not leading to success for me. But I am going to do a solo book, so I'm going to be right behind you. I just tell you what the book is about. So this is I'm going to test your Spanish. I hope you don't mind. But you know what un dicho o un refrán? Dicho o refrán. It's not like that common, so it's okay. That's more advanced. Yeah, who said that?
What is it you said?
It's a saying. It's a saying. Like it's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Or so in the Latino cultures, like every other word out of a mother or grandmother's mouth is like, I'm gonna
An
tell
idiom
you,
of some kind.
yeah, I'm gonna tell you how it is. It's like this wisdom is passed down through these idioms, through these dichos, through these refranes. So I want to write a book about them and talk about the lessons I learned from the refranes and the dichos that my mother taught me.
That's beautiful and fun.
Very fun. And that was one of the things that I've been talking to publishers, and I'm like, I just want y'all to know that this book is going to be about joy. There's enough to be sad about in this world. I'm done talking about all the sad stuff that has happened to me. I want to really focus on like this wisdom that I got and that we get, especially from unexpected sources. Like, it's like, well, my mother didn't even graduate from high school, or my grandmother doesn't even know how to write, or like, all these things. Like, I think a lot of first gen people have these experiences where it's like, you're like, they didn't have education, they didn't have a job in corporate America, they didn't have these things, and it's like, but they were smart and they were wise, and and there's lessons that we can learn from them, and that's what I want to like elevate and bring to the surface. The other thing I will tell you that I do is that I host a program on LinkedIn, and so it's a LinkedIn Live program called Latinas Front and Center, and I interview Latinas that are like what we call jefas, or like trailblazers, or like these women that are just like, they're paving the way and creating pathways for future generations. So that's been really exciting. I'm living my purpose, and that's why like my skin is shine, it glows.
Look at. Okay, I need to do a little bit more living. Get some of that. Get some of that.
Or drink your water and mind your business. That can also help too.
I don't know if that was at me or if that was just general advice,
no
but
shade, Fred.
either way, I'll take it. Oh man. But given all this great stuff that you've been doing, Hady, I'm wondering what lessons have come out of it. Like, what have you learned about your community doing all this stuff?
Well, one of the things that I like to do, and I don't think I'm great at it yet, but one of the things that I've been trying to do is make sure that I include, that I have a pretty big tent in terms of the Latinas that I'm bringing into the conversation and that I'm spotlighting. And I'm trying to bring in more of those younger ones too, because I'm like, there's wisdom there too. There's wisdom everywhere. So I don't want to discount or exclude anyone. And I feel like that's, I walk around, that's what I preach, right? Inclusion. So I got to practice what I preach. So I feel like I have to be very intentional. I'm finding ways to even bring more people into the conversation.
Yes.
I don't know. I just think like it's all good. It's like a lot of positivity, love. And I feel like that's what I want to be about, because how we started this conversation is I forgot what you said. It's been a week. It's been a time.
It's
I
been
forget what.
it's been a time, yeah.
Yeah, and it has been, and it will continue to be. And we have to, like, I think we have to create or generate our own joy and peace and goodness to give, put into the world. There's a lot of opportunity there for allyship, because I still think the vast majority of the people that are supporting me or that are like really excited about this are other Latinas. And I'm like, there's opportunity there to cultivate some allyship and some interest and some partnerships and collaborations with other people, which is why I'm going to bringing in other people, because I feel like there is an opportunity there and I want to tap it.
Yeah, I am a consumer of the TikTok. I love TikTok. I'm so bad. But I saw this video. This woman was basically talking about a work experience, and she was describing, do you know the crabs in a pot
Yep.
like thing, right?
Yes.
Like as people climb, instead of lifting up, they kind of try to pull them down instead. It's such a confusing phenomenon to me, because those of us who are parts of marginalized communities and even have intersectional identities that are marginalized, like, to be able to have an opportunity and to have someone give you a platform that you might not have had, as a sponsor, as an ally, or if, like Hady, like you said, you like to shine the light on people, to have this opportunity to shine the light on people. But folks are so worried, that scarcity idea, right? Yeah, it's definitely hard out here. It is not easy, but it's so confusing when within your own community sometimes you experience that, and it's like, how can we build each other up? And
It does happen. It's like you read my mind. I posted something. I'm not a TikToker, but I like threads. And the other day I wrote
oh,
something on
she in the
threads.
threads. Okay.
Yes, I wrote sometimes it be your own friends, but like, yeah, sometimes it be your own community. It does happen. I've seen it. And I don't engage. Like, so it's like, okay, sometimes I need to unconnect or unfriend or just separate myself from people that are not aligned with how I want to be. And my advice really is to model the behavior. So like, not only will I go out of my way not to associate with people that don't have good intentions in the work that they're doing, but then I'm trying to live and model the behavior that I think is that I feel is the right behavior. And I'm trying to be very deliberate, intentional about how I walk through the world and my purpose. And I feel like my purpose is very clear. But
Yeah.
other than that, my purpose is to help lift and shine a light on other people. You could see that through the work that I do. When what you don't see, I'm having conversations with lots of young and up and coming and people who are just looking for advice, someone to talk to, making sure that they're doing things right, curious about like, how'd you do that? Or what do you recommend? How should I do this? I've taken calls from some people from Africa, India, like, I had this lady from like Eastern Europe that was like, should I quit my job? They haven't like promoted me in 9 years. I'm like, yeah, girl, you need to quit that job. Go find another job.
I want to ask all of you this. I'm just curious, and this is mostly my curious mind, because you'll have to forgive me. I'm total data head right now as I've been combing through the results of these surveys and so on. Another thing that I have seen, and again, this is for any of you, I'm just curious what you think, is a question I ask is, what challenges do you believe that people who are multiracial or mixed race face? What are those challenges? And there's a variety of answers, very interesting. And some of the participants are themselves identifying as being multiracial. But I see not only from people who are white identifying, but a lot of black identifying people say they don't have any problems. And matter of fact, we shouldn't be talking about them because of the privilege. And it just made me think about two things. One, I think there's a misunderstanding about what it is to be mixed race or have mixed racial ancestry. Most people, I think, that I've spoken with assume that when you say mixed race, they think black, white, period. But that's not always it. And then there are a lot of people who are multiracial who they don't look like they have white ancestry, or they don't look like what I'm doing air quotes, what a mixed person looks like. And so I think there's a lot of assumed privilege Obviously, I'm in the DEI space as well, and I'm here to advocate for all marginalized people. But my work is usually around race-based issues, and I come from a Black community. That's the lens that I'm looking through. So I get it when they're saying when these results come in and these are the responses. But I just feel like, why discount an entire group of people because they seem less oppressed, or because there is some perceived or assumed privilege? And especially given that a lot of times these challenges are so unique, because then it's really getting down to identity. What do you guys think about those kind of responses?
Speak from being a biracial Black person. So my dad's white, my mom is Black. A lot of that goes back to the history for Black and white mixed people of enslavement, right? And so there was a hierarchy that was created of who got to be placed where based on skin color and proximity to whiteness. So who got to be in the house, who was in the fields, and that psychological disconnect, right? Of like, well, we're not in the house, so we don't know what that's like, but that had its own sense of like horrors, right? Of being like a concubine and all these different things. That there was this disconnect between like, well, you have it easier because you're light skinned, and how that transitioned into our communities even today. So we can see that in like music videos and movies, and like how celebrities are asked to lighten their skin. Precisely, colorism, right? And so then it creates this divide within the community, saying like, we are all on the same page. Well, you're not, because you have this proximity to whiteness. So I am kind of racially ambiguous presenting. Some folks think I'm white. Some people have said that I look Puerto Rican.
I can vouch.
So, and in addition, we've talked about this before with like dating, for example, right? The fetishization of light-skinned women. And so if I'm up here, like, I'm really just like, a Black girl, right? And they're like, oh, you look so exotic. And when I'm not Puerto Rican or Colombian, then they're like disappointed, because there has been this, fetishization of these folks that we've exotified, right? I don't even know if that's a word. And so there's an intentionality behind that, and why that's done systemically and structurally. There's an intentionality behind uplifting certain folks with their proximity to whiteness as we exist within white supremacy culture, and intentional ways of keeping that. And going back to like your crab in the pot syndrome, like if we're fighting amongst ourselves, we can't fight these larger systems. So if we can create this infighting in these groups and have them at each other's throats, then they're not going to be bothered by the overarching system that is like oppressing us all. And there's realities in that. There's reality that I walk through the world differently than darker skinned women, right? I have privilege that darker skinned women don't have. And I have to exercise allyship and recognize that, yes, I am a woman of color and have marginalized identities. And it is different than, say, like my mother or friends of mine who have darker skin. And I think sometimes I feel like mixed biracial folks try to say they either don't have that, or try to make it seem like it's not a reality. And that can be very off-putting to folks who are like, no, when I come in this place, like they see a Black woman and I am treated like that. Whereas people suss you out first before they start whatever sort of raggedy treatment they have associated with, marginalized identities.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. And just to clarify, this is a question that I posed to everybody, but there wasn't a thing that said like, well, how did you say it just now? I don't have privilege or anything like that. It wasn't as a response to that sort of argument. It was just a question of, what challenges do you believe folks in this community face? And the reason I think that's just an interesting question to ask is because it does get at some of those assumptions people make. And I think there's that happens in so many different communities. And so talking to you sort of made me think about this data that came in. So that's why I asked. Yeah.
Yeah, so the conversation for me was bringing up something that recently changed for me. So for a really long time, and I don't remember, quite frankly, where it started. I want to say it was my parents, but I'm not sure. But I'm thinking it was either like my parents or like my older sisters. For a very long time, I checked off Hispanic or Latino. I think that's how it's phrased. Mm-hmm. And I checked off white. And I didn't know. And I didn't have a really strong feeling one way or the other about that. It's just that there was no other option that even came close.
You're talking about like on these forms where it says first, usually it's first, right? It's like, are you Hispanic, not Hispanic? And then
Yep.
if you say yes or no, if you say yes, then the next question is, what's your race? And so then you have
Correct.
to pick a race.
You have to pick, and the boxes are like none of them are me, basically. Like there, and I don't think there's an other where you can just be like I'm mestizo or I'm mixed or I'm like a thousand things, you know. And like
Right.
the average Latinx person, I think would readily say that like we are a mix of African, European, and indigenous cultures, and it's like the ratio is what changes, but that is essentially what all of us are. And so I would like to check that off, but that's not an option. So what I did for a very long time was I picked white, and I have to tell you that for a long time I didn't feel anything picking that. It was just like I think, you know, one day I decided that that was the closest thing to me, and that's what I picked. And I would say as I got older and I got, you know, a little bit more informed, I was like, ooh, that just does not feel very good for me to be picking that box. Like I need to find a different box. But like really didn't I don't think I identified with any of the other boxes. I'm like, what do I do? And like these are like required fields. Finally now I do pick two or more races. So
Because
I'm
they made
picking
it
that and
available.
yeah, and I do it, and even that I feel a little bit nervous because I'm like, I don't know if I like really identify with that, but like I just told you that like most Latinx people are European, African, and indigenous. So technically I am two or more races. But it, you know, like I identify most as a Latina. Like that's my history and I do, you know, acknowledge it. But like I just wish there was a way to be like brown, you know, I don't know, or
Yeah.
like tan, or I don't know, so
No, I get
something
you.
that was so anyway, that's something new for me. And I'm still like stepping into it and really owning it and being like, yeah, that is what I am. But that I just wanted to share that because that's part of my journey. And I do feel like the Latinx community, colorism is a thing for us too, very much so, more than I ever probably acknowledged or cared to acknowledge, because I feel like we're all like the same. It's like we are
It,
actually so different.
yeah. I think you're right. Like, I also acknowledge that colorism is there, but it's a painful thing. It's easy psychologically speaking and sociologically speaking to do the us them thing and be like, yeah, those people over there oppress us. Those people have racist tendencies, not us. We're the ones that are suffering. But then whenever you have to look within your own group and acknowledge that there's mistreatment there too, it's hard to do that. It's you don't want to do that. So you kind of pause and you're like, I didn't care to acknowledge it for a while. And I just wanted to validate that. Like I get that because it's no one wants to feel like they're doing a bad thing or like they're a bad person. And again, a lot of these things stem from way before us. The biases, the
They're
stereotypes that have
very
been passed
embedded in the
down.
culture. Yeah, they're very
Yeah.
embedded. You don't even realize it. And the things I won't get into details about things that I heard in my childhood, but they were very racist comments about mostly the black community that I heard in my household. And now, you know, and when I was probably 17 or 18, I was like, I don't think that's true. You know, like I'm like, ah. And then when I got to college, I was like, that is totally not true. But there was a lot of messaging that I received that I had to unlearn and be like, I have evidence to the contrary. So
There you
I have
go.
a different belief system. You know, I'm gonna hopefully break this cycle and introduce a
Yeah.
different belief system into my family.
And I do believe we have made lots of steps and we're in better places now. And hopefully we can continue to get better at that.
100%. The other thing I was just gonna say is like how like weird it is that like people, you know, those questions they're everywhere, and you know people just check them off, and I don't think some people realize how triggering and challenging and complicated it is for some people to answer those questions. Like you're like literally like I don't
I
even
know.
like where we started. We're like, who are you? I'm like, I don't like. I'm still trying to figure it out, and it's like, how is that possible? That like, but like I'm still getting comfortable with like my answers
Yeah.
to these questions, and it's like they seem pretty benign, but they're not. They're
It's
not benign.
not. It isn't. And when you have to try to fit yourself and force yourself into a category, it denies who you actually are, which can't be defined by boxes on a page. That being said, breaking news.
Are the boxes changing?
They
Is that
are
the breaking news?
changing. Yes. Yes. So, way back 5 years ago in season one, my co host was Shannon, and she and I walked the National Mall in DC and interviewed people and asked about what they thought about the census potentially changing because the Obama administration had wanted to add, instead of like just the race boxes with the Hispanic, not Hispanic line, um, that was going to be its own, I'm doing air quotes again, race category. And then there was going to be a MENA category, MENA, which is Middle Eastern and North African. Because that's a whole another group of people that's like, I'm not white, but I'm also not black, and I'm also not this. And
Correct.
so a lot of them just checked the white box. And now I think it was in the year 2000, you could finally check more than one race or two or more races. And then in the 2010 and 2020 census collection, you could write in something. But then the census was like, oh my God, how are we going to do all these write ins? Like, how are we going to handle this? The Trump administration did not want to use the proposed census with the MENA category and the Hispanic Latinx category. But I just saw that it's now coming back. So Biden administration took it back up. So they usually do like a midway. So we'll see how it goes in 2030. There should be new forms, which hopefully these other, look at, she's dancing, y'all. These other bureaucratic forms that we have to fill out all the time will probably, hopefully,
Follow.
follow. That's right, follow the lead. So a little closer, a little closer.
Success.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just don't, clearly it's probably been white people that have been putting these forms together and they're like, the other, whatever, everybody else. So I do feel like finally we're probably getting more inclusive voices in this conversation that are acknowledging these little nuances because, there's a lot of us that don't fit in those boxes. That's just not, there's not enough boxes right now for all of us to identify with. So that's great
Yeah.
news.
Well, I
Yeah.
have a question for
Sharing.
you guys, and then for listeners too, because we've actually been through this silly conversation, but we were in line getting our vaccine shots, and I had to go and do our boxes. And my kids, obviously, because I am of mixed race, are also with their father being from El Salvador and everything. Like they can check any of the boxes, all the boxes.
We'll check all
And
the boxes.
and we're like up there, and one of my kids goes, "So can I just put white because I don't know what's about to happen?" And like it was you're like, and I feel like I can have privilege if I check this box instead. And I'm like, dang, that is so like realistic. Like I feel like I
Hold
can have
up.
privilege if I just check this. Like, will they give me the good shot? Like that's literally what's like in her head. Like it was,
That's
we knew
sad.
nothing about nothing, but we were just trusting. So,
Wow.
and I was like, that's such a real question. Like,
He's like, I'm gonna step into my white privilege. Come on
no,
now.
for real. It's like, what are we doing? We know we want to do this. We don't know what, like, are they going to give us the good stuff or the bad stuff? Like, it's like, why don't I just go ahead and put the
Oh
safe
my
choice? I was like,
word.
gosh, this is crazy that this is even a thought going through like a 20-year-old head. So it's like, maybe I need to pick what's going to protect me.
Oh
Isn't that
wow.
sad? It's
Well,
like sad,
people have
funny,
been
sad,
trying.
but yeah, like, interesting. Yeah.
People have been trying to survive for
No, for
centuries.
real.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And Hadi, it wasn't even just like there's not enough boxes. Back in the day, the census taker used to just decide for you what your race was.
Oh,
They would just look
wow.
at you and
Unbelievable.
be like, and you're going down as this, and you're going down as this.
Imagínate, like all of us, like what.
Wow.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Wow. On that note, y'all, no, yeah, no, this has been a fun conversation and enlightening. Thank you so much for joining us today, Hadi. Any questions or anything like that for you, Kat, before we close?
Thank you. This has been really fun for me. I love this. You can invite me back anytime. We can have
Yay!
cafecito and chit chat and this and spill the tea. It's been really enjoyable. It was a Phenomenal conversation.
Yes. What came up for you today, I guess, just as we're talking? Anything new come up for you or
Say one interesting thing that I found is that so none of you are Latina, but like I definitely felt a kinship and a shared experience. And yeah, I don't know, like that was a little weird for me, but cool at the same time. Like it was, I wasn't sure what to expect, and I felt very. I hate using the word "seen" just because not everybody sees, but I just felt, validated. Like my experience is validated, and and I also feel like I use the term "woman of color," which I know some people are probably like, "Girl, what?" But like women of color really do. There is a sisterhood, kinship, shared experience
yeah.
there, and I feel like this to me validates that. I have my Latina sisters and I have my women of color sisters, and then I just have, you know, women that are my sisters. But I feel like I kind of felt my women of color sisterhood, like really coming to the surface today, and I love that. I love that
I
for
love
me.
that too. I think that's fantastic. Well, Hadi, thank you so much. You did share where some of your things are, so I'm going to make sure that folks have access to that in the show notes so they can find you on LinkedIn. Any shout out or and promotes any promotions you want to do?
So if you're interested in spotlighting a Latina in your company or organization, all I need for you is to identify the Latina, pick a date, a time, a location, and I will be there with bells on, with my interview questions, and we're gonna make that Latina shine.
I love
So that's
that.
the
Yeah.
goal. So if you're interested in
Awesome.
that, I'm happy to be a partner in that work.
Love it. Well,
Awesome.
keep doing your amazingness. There are so many people out here I know that appreciate it. And even the trickle effect, I bet you there's people that don't even know that they could thank you for what you're doing. So you and yourself are a light. So that's just a joy. I love it all. Thanks, Kat. Thanks for hanging.
Of
Rachel had to
course.
drop y'all,
Happy to
but
be
she'll
here.
be with us next time. So
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been fun.
It's been lovely to meet y'all.